What is the next step in your music? This is a question I've had to ask myself over and over through the years, and it's likely you will have to ask yourself this almost all the time, endlessly, to make sure that you are going in the direction you need to go in. I flew across the country last week and completely exhausted myself in order to pursue some next steps myself. I'm going to talk about that today a little bit, including the production music conference in Los Angeles that I went to and my thoughts about it. But that's really just one of the steps that I want to talk about today that I've had to take to get to the next place that I want to get to. And there are lots of ways to do this. And we're going to talk about it. I mean, you can take next steps in your music besides going to a conference. You don't have to go to a conference. And we're going to talk about what I think are the three modes that I think are important in moving to the next step in your music career. And I will continue to stress how important taking these next steps are. I'm going to warn you, I'm going to say next steps a lot, so we might as well just make this a drinking game. Next steps. Every time Eric says next steps, take a drink. I think this is something that I talk about with my partners every week, my positive spin partners and my clients, and everybody, all the time. Even at the conference, we were talking about what to do next. I'm always sending emails to my partners and pushing them to take the next step for them, just like I push myself to take the next steps for me. How do you get from being someone who can just make a beat or think of a melody to making something that's truly quality and making sure that you then find a way to make a quantity of this quality music, and then finding someone who will listen to it and help you take the next steps with your music so that it brings music income? Well, that's what we're continually trying to find on this channel and on this podcast. So today, if you are ready, my friends, to take the next step in your music career, well, join the club, because so am I. And we are going to dig in 4 or 5 ways to really take your music and your career to the next step. But right now, the very next step is the intro. Welcome to the Make Music Income Podcast. My name is Eric Copeland, and I've made a full-time living as a music producer, composer, and arranger for over 25 years. In this podcast, I talk about making music income with music licensing, music production, music streaming, music royalties, being a music composer, arranger, producer, or artist, or really any way that I have in the past or currently now or want to make music income. I have free and paid courses and coaching and ebooks for you at makemusicincome.com/free. Make sure to like this podcast if you enjoy the content, because it really helps, and subscribe if you're just finding the podcast or channel and want to be part of things every week. I hope all this content helps you make the music you love to make and make music income. Well, if the next step for you is to increase your quality and your quantity and make music income with licensing your music to TV and film and advertising, etc., then you're going to love today's sponsor of our show. And I think we need a little... It's me. It's usually always me. I have done sponsors of the show and done sponsored videos before, but today's show, as usual, is sponsored by the Positive Spin Partners Program. And folks, we literally have dozens of briefs that are going on every single week. We are meeting weekly for at least an hour on Monday mornings and talking about all the albums that we have going on, where they're going, what library they're already going to. Many of them are already asked for by a library, or I've shown them to a library and the library says, yes, we'll take it. And if that's not the case, I have a sub-label that will take it, and we have a new library that relationship was cemented at the Production Music Conference, which we'll talk about. But yes, I am working with all my Positive Spin partners every week. They get emails personally on what we're working on specifically with them. And then that comes on Monday mornings at 8 o'clock. And then we meet at 11 a.m. on Mondays on Zoom live. We go over everything. We go over what the 20 plus albums we are working on. We talk about all the relationships with the libraries that we have and who wants what and what we're going to do. If this sounds interesting to you, then you need to get in touch, because I do have a couple of openings right now, but I can only take a certain number, because any more than a certain number would just be too much, because I am personally producing every partner. We are working together just like I used to work with clients and personally produce clients. Well, right now I'm personally working with composers, working with producers, and we are coming up with albums that are going on these projects. And so talk about the next step. I am personally taking people to their next step, or they're taking me to a next step. Who knows? But we're talking about personal and musical and career transformation here through weekly briefs, weekly albums that we're creating ourselves. Talk about making it yourself, making your own music business. We are doing that, making albums that are going to libraries, that are leading to placements, that are leading back to PRO payments and sync payments. And we've had even some upfronts, some not even upfronts, some buyouts lately that have gone directly to our partners. So if you want to be part of this, get in touch with me at positivespinsongs.com/partners. Just go watch that. There's a lot of information there. It tells the entire story of what we do. There's a video of me talking there, just because, of course, you need more video of me talking. But you can find out more about Positive Spin Songs and the Partners program there, or you can go and look at the kind of music we make. If you want to see the quality, if you're like, this guy is always talking on his channel about making music. What kind of music does he actually make? Well, it's right there, all of it. Not all of it, but as much as I can get up at from time to time. So if you're really ready to take the real next step, not just a next step in your mind or a next step from this very inspirational video I'm about to give you today, and podcast that you're about to listen to, go from 0 to 60 like some of my artists have, and be like Alita, who is on is like a cellist on steroids right now, making so many songs and having at least, we're at least at album number 6 within the past year that's been signed, and now 4 of them have been signed to 2 different PMG labels. It's crazy what's happening with our partners and how many things we're getting on there. So got to talk about that first every day, because that is a very important part. By doing this work with my partners, I can talk to you about the results and why I know this to be true, because I'm doing it every day, every single day with my partners, and we are making things happen. We have proof. We have over 250 songs already in libraries just in 2025. And it's probably going to be about 150 more, because we're getting ready to give a bunch to libraries here in the next month or two, all the way to the end of the year. So come join us if you're interested, and we will talk about it. All right, so I want to jump in today to some of the things that I think can lead you to the next level. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the trip that I just got back to, the PMC, or otherwise known as the Production Music Conference. It was in Los Angeles, and I flew out last Monday, a week ago Monday, and came back a week ago today, and went to this conference, and it was very interesting, and I'm glad I went. I think there are pros and cons, and I'm going to give you those pros and cons. But first, you're saying, gosh, Eric, if we could only see some pictures. So first things first, guess who I run into at the airport on the way out to Los Angeles, in the Orlando airport? I sent this to my wife, and I'm like, look who it is. Look at this guy. Look at the guy who's right on the same flight. And it was, of course, Dave and his wife Shannon was also there as well. But yeah, that was a fun time. We were travel partners on the way there and on the way back, as a matter of fact, sitting rows apart, enjoying or not enjoying flying for 5 hours. But that was a great first thing to happen. And then I got to Hollywood, and you can tell I was in Hollywood because there's the Hollywood sign. And this is, I think this was on the way to my hotel. As I was hoofing it over to my hotel, I kind of did a little adventure, and that was very cost effective and fun. I went to Union Station and took a look around there, and then took the subway out to where my hotel was, which was like a block or two from my hotel. And you can see the Hollywood sign right there. And you can see a view from my room, or one of the rooms I was in at one point. So very cool California-looking landscape with condos up in the hills and the mountains and things like that. Jimmy Kimmel Live, I was about 2 blocks away from the Walk of Fame, and I can prove it because, boom. These are among hundreds of these stars I saw. And that was kind of cool. Robin Williams, Greta Garbo. And also at the time, they were doing a red carpet event right on the street there for Tron Ares, which I think I may go see today. I've been thinking about it since I saw this thing. It looks really cool. And everywhere there was like all these billboards and everything for it. But anyway, that was pretty cool to see a red carpet event happening. But I was walking past this because I was on my way to do something I had never done and wanted to do for decades. And that is eat at In-N-Out Burger, which I did. You can see here. In-N-Out Burger, which is only in, I think it's like from Texas on over west. I don't think it comes all the way over to the south at all. At least not yet. And so if you're wondering what it was like to eat at In-N-Out Burger, well, I'll tell you, it was fine. I mean, the burger was fine. The fries were, kind of like McDonald's-ish. Otherwise, it was just a burger place. And would I eat there again? Maybe, maybe not. It wasn't super that impressive. That's my review of In-N-Out Burger. Thank you. So this was the view I saw every morning from the hot tub that was at the hotel, and thank goodness they had a hot tub because it was a exhausting conference and I needed something before I got started every day. But it was pretty cool. There was a mansion up here on top of the hill behind where my hotel was. And this is not in order, but this is in order because the next day I took a picture of the Grauman's Theater, Chinese Theater. And of course you can see all the Walk of Fame stars in front of that. This is kind of the known place. All right, so you're saying, Eric, did you actually go to a conference or did you just tour LA? Well, I actually did get to the conference, to the PMC conference, and boy, let me tell you, that I had walked up this big hill because I took that was the first day I took the train over, but I finally got to the PMC 2025, which was very cool. And of course, the first guy I see is someone I never see. Dave's going to get a lot of a screen time. Actually, this is the last of his screen time in this video, but it was good to sit and talk with him. We had a lovely beer at the end of the conference as well. This is an example of some of the conference talks that were going on. And to be honest, I didn't spend a lot of time in these. I ended up spending most of my time talking to people, as I am wont to do. You're like, oh, we're shocked, Eric, that you'd be talking to people. That's crazy talk. But one of the people I talked to was the very first lunch, the networking lunch. I met Sammy, and Sam is a composer from Texas, and we were able to meet. And one of the few selfies I took, apparently I didn't take a lot of selfies. I did see the Magic Castle at one point. That's kind of out of order. I also hung out with this dude, Mr. Stephen McDonald, who is good friend. We've been talking online on our Discord for years, and finally we're able to meet up and hang out and had a great time. And he also, I think, had a pretty good time. He calls himself an introvert, but I didn't think he was very introverted. But anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you as far as pictures from this thing. And I want to kind of now give my pros and cons to the conference. So should you go to the Production Music Conference in Los Angeles? Well, the pros for me were I did get to meet with the library who I'm signing a sub-label deal with, and that went very well. We hung out the entire conference, and so that was very cool. We got to hang out and just talk about the future, but more than that, just hang out and get to know each other. I met all the partners and different people that were related to that library, and so we are ready. We are still planning the rollout, which may not happen until the first of the year, but that's fine because I have a lot of albums to give them, and I need to get them all just right. And it also gives me time to deliver all the albums that we already have to deliver to other libraries this year. So, and I met a lot of my libraries face to face. I met at least 3 or 4 libraries that I'm delivering music to all the time, but I've never met them in person. We may have talked on Zoom perhaps, but some we haven't even done that. So it was really good to meet libraries face to face and find out maybe just a little, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about through email, but there's just something different that you find out by talking to them live in person. So that was really cool to do that. I met new libraries and sync agents that I'm now talking to. I've got, then this isn't just from libraries and stuff, but I've got business cards galore that from people that I am talking to, and 2 new libraries that I am, possibly 3 new libraries that I am talking to, and a sync agent as well. So a lot of new opportunities have come from it. I met new partners, and they've already joined us in our Monday weekly spin up that we have with the Positive Spin Partners, and where we talk about our briefs and stuff. So we've had those. We saw friends. I saw friends and traveled with friends, and I got to see Hollywood. The cons for all the composers and producers who were there, I felt that there weren't as many sessions that had information for those people, for us. I mean, I felt like there was a lot of music business stuff going on. Maybe other people may not think that, but I know most people I know that were writers and composers were way more interested in meeting people, meeting libraries, meeting other composers, talking and finding new relationships than they were sitting in some of the conferences, which didn't seem really that focused on us. They had some very like specialized things. They had ones on AI, which is, what are you going to say about AI? And you get done, it's like a snake eating its tail. And we've got a problem called AI. There's no real solution. The end of the session. So that was, I just did not find much interest in the sessions. And so I had a lot more interest in meeting people and talking with people. So that's what I did. And while I was able to meet with a lot of people, I wish there was just a little bit more ways to meet up with them rather than just aimlessly walking up to strangers. I think there could be some assignments to, they have like an outdoor thing where they have tables where everybody can sit and have lunch together and meet. That's pretty cool, but it might be cooler if they had a seating type of thing. You got a table number and you just sat at a random table rather than trying to walk around and look weird walking up to people. I think there's some things they could do to really mix it up. Make sure there's always some writers, some producers, some label people, some library people, some sync agents at every table mixed. That would be really cool if they do something like that. Sometimes another con is that it was hard to find a place to talk because it was pretty loud in a lot of places and you just needed a quiet place to talk. So I found a few, but it wasn't easy. And then the other big con you need to know before you ever go to a conference like this, especially this one where it's very expensive. We'll get to that in a minute, but is just exhaustion. I was exhausted by the end of the first day. I couldn't even make it through and really do much at the last mixer. I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go back to my hotel and just chill. And so I did. And then another con certainly is the price. the price to travel, the price to stay at the hotels in Hollywood, the price to for getting back and forth to the airport, the price to get back and forth to the conference, the price of the conference. And even if I want to stay at the hotel where the conference was, I mean, we're talking $400 a night. It's crazy. And so that was a downside. And the very last downside is the same as a con, is the same as a pro, which is I saw Hollywood. And while I got to see Hollywood or a certain part of it, it was interesting in a way that Times Square is interesting. If you've ever been to Times Square, that's very interesting, but it's not necessarily a place you want to hang out all the time. And Hollywood, at least the part of Hollywood that I saw this time, was pretty much the same. I stepped over a lot of homeless people, and it was at once cool and magical, seeing the House of Magic or the Magic Castle and seeing the Walk of Fame is cool, but also seeing homeless people is not so cool. All right, so that is the pros and cons. Overall, it's a pretty great conference. I just wish that it was a little bit more focused on the producers and composers that seemed to make up 60 to 70% of the people who were there, rather than just the industry. And I know the industry is there to talk to each other, and it's Old Home Week for them as well, and I get it. But I think the conferences, if you want people in there, and guess what? You can watch those afterwards, and I'm still planning to watch them afterwards. You can watch them online, just like you went online. And I think no one really wants to hear about AI. I mean, we all know what AI is and is coming and what it does. And I know it's a buzzword and I know it's important, but it's like a snake eating its tail. It's the same conversation all the time. I think it's way more important for us to talk to each other as humans and work together. I think it's super important to meet with the libraries that you're working with, and most of them are there. And because of that, like I said, I got some tidbits that I wouldn't have gotten through email. So that's a pretty big deal. And there's a question, does it need to be in Los Angeles? I mean, I know that's where the industry is, but it's a haul from most places in the United States or the world. There were an amazing number of people from Europe there and from other places in the world. So I met so many people that weren't from Los Angeles, including people who worked in the industry. I met a guy from APM who lives in Wisconsin. I met many people who work for companies. I'm finding more and more people who work for these companies, but they work remotely and they live remotely. So I'm wondering, why couldn't it be in Chicago or in Florida? Orlando is a lovely place to have a conference. But I guess you want to meet people who are in Los Angeles. So, and because it's there, and, and being there, traveling and jet lag and all that kind of stuff adds to the exhaustion you're already going to have for having an event like that. I literally think you really need to stay at the hotel despite the cost, and maybe stay less days and go, because really a lot of people are not there all 3 days. They're there the first and second day, but not the third day sometimes. So, and I definitely think you don't want to go unless you are already working in sync in some way, unless you already have a music library that you're working with or libraries. I think otherwise just going to try and get a sense of what the industry is about is not the best thing to do with your money. That's just my hot take. Overall, I'm glad I went. And if I go next year, it will definitely be a shorter trip, maybe more carefully planned for mental health and physical exhaustion. I know that my friend Dave did that this year, and he had a much more enjoyable experience. Was it a next step for me? Absolutely, because I had people I was going to meet specifically to sit and talk to about a deal, and I met people who were there who I work with on a weekly basis delivering music to. So it was definitely worth it. Next year, though, probably less. Less maybe a need to go, or less days. Although when you're flying out to such an extent where you're on a 5-hour trip from Orlando to Los Angeles, you feel like I should get my money's worth and see that. So don't know. We'll see about next year. But that's my thoughts on the production conference. Jack Barton says, as someone who's grown up around In-N-Out, that's the best thing I can say about it too. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's like Whataburger. What a disappointment is what I call that. And I know that's going to get some issues. Do you believe people living in LA have an edge over people living in other parts of the state or the country or the world? Possibly, because then you could meet for lunch and stuff with people, but they are busy people. So I would imagine that would be a difficult thing to do, but probably. Although, like I said, a lot of people that I'm meeting, one library I met is in Texas. Another library that I met is in LA. Another library that I met for the first time is also in LA. And then the other library I met from one of my BMG libraries is from Switzerland. So only half of the people that I met that I needed to meet that were with libraries that I want to talk to and I want to meet in person were even from Los Angeles. So maybe not. I want to talk about some next steps here. And I want to talk about 3 next steps: easy, advanced, and expert mode. So are you ready? First, we're going to start with easy mode. And easy mode is pretty easy. The next step for your music is really to study. And you're doing it right now. You're soaking in it, as we say. Some of you will understand what that means. Most of you will not. You're here on YouTube. You're here learning right now. You're here watching a podcast, and you are or listening to a podcast in your car. Whatever you're doing, you're currently studying this music thing. You're listening to me jabber on and on about what I have to say because you're hoping to glean some nugget of information for your career. Great. Good on you, mate. You are doing it. You are studying. Another way you could study would be, of course, to go to university or study in your high school or in your college program or take classes online or get into some kind of program. We'll talk about that in a minute. But right now you're working with people, you're working for people maybe. You're watching lots of different kinds of people, me, but other personalities also talking about what they're doing. You're hopefully emailing and meeting libraries, or you're somehow communicating with people who can help you. And maybe you're gigging, you're doing gigs, or you're doing all of these things. And I think that's important. That's important work to get to the next step in your music career. Studying and kind of reaching out to people and doing work with people. And so I think that's easy mode. And I think that's something you do for almost no money. I mean, there's no money related to that. And there's very little risk. You can study, you can play with your dog, depending on a YouTube video you saw or something. And you can do all these things and make, progress in your career. Get to another level in your career. And that's what I call easy mode, which is study and doing on your own, no money needed. Boom. The next mode that I feel is important is what I call advanced mode. And this is the way to get to the next step. But what you're doing in advanced mode is really joining some kind of program. And or you are going to a school that costs you money to go to. I think of these things as very close to each other. You are either going to a recording school. I taught at a recording school for a couple of years recently. Dave teaches at a recording school and teaches about this kind of stuff that we talk about on our channels. You're learning from someone, you're paying to learn from someone. And usually this is someone that you've grown to trust. If it's a YouTuber like myself or Dave Croft or Stevie B or Clint or Jesse, whoever it is, you've found that you trust what they have to say. There's something about them online that it probably is because they always are taking drinks of tea. You have to understand, talking, I don't get a break, so I have to continue to keep things lubricated. So You're learning from someone who makes weird statements like that you really like. Perhaps they are like Dave Croft, and they will say something with a long pause. I talk about the Dave Croft pause all the time, especially to Dave. And we're actually planning lunch for next week. So that said, you are learning from someone that you have learned to trust online. And it doesn't even have to be related to sync or anything. It could be related to something else in music. Maybe there's piano people or music people, or there are different people who, there's Nathan, and there's different people who have different kinds of music takes on things, and they offer programs. And so you join a program. That's advanced mode. You're going to spend a little money. You're going to spend a little time to learn from someone that you trust. That's what I did. I did that. When I first got into sync licensing, I did a year-long program that cost me something per month to be part of a program in Los Angeles. And that was how I learned how to do sync, and how I really got the information on how to get my first deals. And I got a few deals through that program. Now, I also learned before sync, I learned from people that weren't online. I learned from people I met locally or regionally, or people in the business. I would go to Nashville and talk with people that I wanted to learn from and have mentors. And I didn't have YouTube back in that time, so you really had to meet people. And you can still do that, by the way. Or you could not join a program, the Positive Spin Partners program or 52 Qs or some program like that. And you could pay for a one-time consult from someone you trust online. That too is another way that you can start to learn, and maybe they become a mentor of some kind to you. But I think you have to find the person and the program that fits you, and you have to get going on it. And then you have to work the program. You can't just jump on a program or hire a producer and expect them to do all the work and you do nothing and your career goes somewhere. You have to work. This is the advanced mode. If you want easy mode, go back to easy mode and just watch and study and play by yourself in your own sandbox. But if you want to learn and get to the next step and get to advanced mode, I think you've got to work with someone. And you already know how to work with me and all the other places who there's a ton of stuff in the description of this video of ways that I can help you, whether it's free information, free courses, free ebooks, all that kind of stuff, or my courses, or my coaching, or the partners program. We all have these things to help you. You have to then decide to do this and move to advanced mode. And I think that's super important. If you don't do anything, you will not get better. And you've got to do something. You got to find the program that has opportunities that you're interested in. If you're interested in learning how to make money through whatever, you're going to try to find the places that has opportunities for you to make money. If you want to deliver music and make music and get it delivered to sync libraries, you're going to have to find programs that do that offer briefs and all those kind of things. Be careful with the briefs that you see, what I would call cattle call briefs, where TuneEdge is a company like this that sends me emails all the time. I know people who have had luck with TuneEdge, and I know people who suggest it. But to me, it seems like a bit of a cattle call. There's thousands of people getting these briefs because it's free. Everybody gets it. And, I just think spending a lot of time on something where you're competing with thousands of other songs is not as good as if you're in a private program where you're getting a brief that's only going to, like me. My briefs only come to me. And then I disseminate them to and offer them to my partners. So that, to me, that is a way to really work a program and then take advantage of the opportunities that program provides you. So, for instance, if you're trying to learn how to do music, make music a certain way, you may want to take one of Stevie B's courses or join his production music academy and learn how to do music, because you're not worried about getting signed right now. You're just trying to learn how to get better as a musician. Well, maybe that's the place that you should join. I think once you're in these programs and once you're starting to get stuff into libraries, then you can think about something like the PMC and going to that. I did meet a lot of people who were not really in any library, and they seemed the most lost and the most like, I'm not really sure how to take advantage of this conference. So I think joining a program, jumping into advanced mode, find whether it's a YouTuber or a person that you just know, and they have a program. Usually everybody who is teaching and has some kind of program that you can join has a YouTube component or some kind of social media component. Find the guru that works for you. We'll talk more about gurus in a minute. Daydreams asked, how many attendees were on the PMC? I don't know. I have to think 300 to 500. It was a lot. There was a lot of people there. Maybe not that many, but it seemed like an awful lot. More, and this is a good question. I kind of answered this earlier, but more musicians, producers, or more library owners? I would say the percentages go 60 to 70% musicians, producers, 20% library owners, and only about 5% or less sync agents and music supervisors. There were like no music supervisors there that I met. I think there were a few, but I didn't meet any. And I didn't see any panels on it, that's a panel I think we all would have liked to go to. More music supervisor or sync agent panels where they talk more about how they work. I think that's a mystery. I met a sync agent, and I'm going to try to get her on this channel, and a couple of them that are very interesting and talk about sync from the non-library perspective. I think that would be very interesting. I know music supervisors are scared that they would just get inundated with people emailing them. But I still think it would be interesting to talk to a music supervisor. I'm trying to get them to come on my channel. I keep reaching out, so at some point we will get them there. Lovely Fishing Rod says, would you recommend getting a university degree in music for someone who wants to pursue music full time? I absolutely do recommend it. I think going back and really studying music, the history of music, the theory of music, the composing of music, the orchestration has been life-changing for me as I've started down the road of sync. I think it is absolutely something you should do. There's no question. Now, do you have to? No. But should you? Do I suggest it? I absolutely wholeheartedly do. Even if it's an online course, I suggest doing it. And there are cheap and inexpensive online courses, all the way up to expensive online courses about pursuing music and getting a different. You don't even have to get a degree. You could just do some classes and get some certificates and things like that. I think that's super helpful. Absolutely. Cattle call might be useful for someone who is just starting out. The only thing a cattle call is going to do for you is to get you some music made. Maybe it'll help you get music made. But I'm not sure the cattle call way of doing briefs is very helpful. How useful was this conference versus something like Taxi's conference? I've never been to Taxi's conference, and I don't believe I am invited. Maybe I would be. I don't know. I wouldn't go to Taxi's conference, I don't think. I think I need to specify. To be honest, I think I should stay at home as much as possible and do work. Yeah, do work. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about expert mode. And expert mode is not just walking around looking at information forever. That's easy mode. Easy mode is just study mode and going to conferences only and watching videos only. But this conference was probably the conference if you are a composer and producer and already working in sync. I think if you've never gotten into a library or whatever, and you don't have much to show people or any music to show people, this is not a conference to go to. The Taxi conference might be, maybe. I don't know. I bet it would be a little bit more friendly to the beginner than this conference was. I'll say that. I don't know who would agree with that, but I'll say that for sure. And finally, I want to get to what I call expert mode to move to the next step. And this is where I want you to really tune in and listen to me. Because once you've got through the study mode where you've been watching YouTube videos and taking notes and starting to find your DAW and getting good as a producer and getting your quality to a certain level. And then you've started to do other things like get into programs and learn how to do things from me or Dave or Stevie or Clint or Jesse, whoever it is. And you've started to learn how to do things, and I think you're ready to now move on to expert mode. And expert mode is what I call go out and build your own thing and go. I mean, go out there. You know, I still watch some videos from Dave and from Jesse and from Clint and from a lot of these people because I'm interested to see what they have to say about things. But what I have to do more is I have to do the work. I've had to repeatedly build my own thing in the music business. Listen, I tried the traditional way of knocking on doors and showing demos off to people and getting told, thanks, kid, but that's not what we're looking for right now. I have been to Nashville. I've been to Los Angeles. I have sent emails and mail packages and all of that kind of stuff for a long time. Ultimately, what would happen is I would drive home back to Kentucky, where I lived before I moved to Nashville, back to Lexington, and I would say, you know what? I'm just going to start my own thing. I'm going to start my own studio. I'm going to start my own business. At that time, there wasn't really there really wasn't an internet to start a business on. I had started a website. This is back in the mid-90s. But ultimately, what worked for me was starting my own studio, working with people, having people pay me to do work. And I'm still doing that. That's exactly what I'm doing. I am working for my partners, and my partners pay me like they would pay a producer because I am producing their music and getting it and then doing all the work to hook them up with the libraries and hook them up getting their songs into albums that are getting placed and then placements that are happening on TV shows and all that kind of stuff. And so I've been doing that now for full time for 25 years. And that's been my full-time work since the year 2000. I built my own thing, and that's how I make music income still. And I still study all the time, so I'm still doing easy mode. I still do all the things I've been talking about in this podcast so far. I work my butt off. I have a drive that won't quit. Here I am online talking about it. I'm just relentless. I can't remember what Dave said to me. At the very end of the last day, Dave Croft and I sat down and we found a quiet room where no one was except the people who were celebrating the end of the conference who had run it. And we were in these lovely chairs with two lovely tall beers. And we were just sipping beer and just talking about ways we could continue to work together, because we are always talking about ways we can help each other, and we talk a lot, especially since we're both here in the same town. And at the end of the conversation, as we were leaving, he said something to me, and I can't remember what it was, but he said something along the lines of, you have a relentless quality about you in a good way. And I said, oh, you mean because I'm just always hustling? He goes, it's not hustle. It's initiative. It's focus. It's commitment. And it's more than a grind, because he knows I grind and he does too. And that's part of it. It's more than hustle, but I take the initiative to do things. I have a pretty narrow focus on what I want to do and make sure I do. And I am committed to doing it. And and probably some of you are like, you should be committed. And maybe I should. Think how much writing I could get done if I was committed to an asylum. I could do a lot of work. That's what I'm talking about. It's an unceasing imagination and creativity that I can't stop. And you likely have that. I mean, you're not watching this video, and there's not 20 of you or so here watching this video because you're not interested. You are interested, and you're spending time watching and listening to this podcast. And to me, that's really how you get to the next step, maybe the final steps. You are the next step. Yes, it may involve a program or a conference or some help by someone like me or someone else. But the only person who is going to make the next step for you is you. And maybe that might involve you helping other people at some point. But I know all of this because this is what has worked for me. I only talk about on this channel about what works for me and what I know. I have a course on getting into sync. It's called Getting into Sync. And it's based on my story. It's only my story. I'm not the end-all be-all person on this, but I am the end-all be-all person on me. And so I know that's what's worked for me, and I've seen it work for everyone else who is successful in music. They don't quit. They keep at it when others are quitting. They work harder than anyone else. I work harder than anyone I know. When people tell me they're busy, I go, dude, are you serious? Are you really serious? Do you know how many balls I have up in the air? You have no idea. But these people work harder than anyone else, the people who take the next step. They're not afraid to spend a little money, like I did at this conference. I wish, it was a lot, and it can put you in a bit of a hole. But I have done this since I have been in music. I have been going to conferences. I have been going to classes. I have been going to places. I've done this for 30 years. I used to go to the Gospel Music Association conferences every year. I volunteered at them. As a matter of fact, I met a young man at this conference at the PMC. I was standing in the back of waiting to talk to someone who was on a panel, and the young man next to me said, "Hey man, I love your show." And I said, "Oh, thanks." And it turns out he had already contacted me, or I had contacted him or something. But he was volunteering at the conference, and by volunteering, he got the whole day on the last day of the conference to just walk around and go to events. And I told him I used to do that very thing. I volunteered for the Gospel Music Association and helped them. I just said, "Hey, do you need somebody? I'll trade you out volunteering for a table." And I would put all of my products and all of my clients' projects and my cards and everything on a table. So to me, that's one of those ways you can get in. It was part of my study mode. Part of my easy mode was just listening and learning and meeting people and all that kind of stuff. Yes, taking the next step is going to take your time, a lot of time, most of your time, your free time. It's going to take money. And maybe you take that money from other things that you'd buy yourself. Maybe you don't buy a boat. Maybe you don't buy a water ski-doo, or you don't buy that new PlayStation or whatever it is. And you take that money that you might put into a new car, or dare I say, a Disney vacation. And by the way, I suggest just moving to Disney and living on vacation, but that's just me. But you've got to sacrifice, and you're going to have to sacrifice time, sleep. I've sacrificed sleep before. I don't do it now. I've figured out how not to do that. But the next step for you is to do all the things that I've done and that other people who have had success have done. And that is to take the next step. And if you don't think you know how to do this, then get in touch with me in some way. Download something free. If you go to the description, you'll find lots of free ebooks and things like that. Download those. Find out about our partners program. Talk to me, email me, and ask me a question. Or join another program that you like from another guru. Just make sure you feel comfortable with that guru. There's nothing wrong with gurus. We are here to help you. All we want to do is help you. But whatever you do, don't just sit there. Don't just watch this video. If you've gotten to this point in the video, by the way, or the podcast, which not many people have, then you're someone who's ready to take the next step. because you've listened all the way through. Congratulations. I'm shocked, but thank you for listening. And let me know if I can help in your next step. Well, everybody, I think that's going to do it for me. Thanks so much for watching today. And I hope that you will go to makemusicincome.com/free and get you some free things if you don't have it. I am working on some new free stuff. But right now, we are in album finish mode on so many things. And the music comes first. I try to keep my priority to what we're trying to work on musically. And because I love everything I'm working on, and because I basically initiate everything we're working on, it's a lot of fun for me. So what will be your next step? Do you need help with your next step? Well, get in touch. And if you do, also check out our Positive Spin Partners program. Maybe that's the right program for you to get involved with to start getting your music out into the world of sync, because that's what we're working on all the time. I hope that you will find your next step, whether it's the easy next step of studying, the advanced next step of working with someone in a program, or the next step of starting and building your own business in music, because I'm telling you, that's the long-term win, when you can build your own music business. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you watching. We will see you next time on the Make Music Income podcast.